Watch this.
The people of New Meadows, Idaho are still looking for answers as to why a Washington man charged with a serious accusation of a violent crime was out and free and able to shoot and kill 2 people. This happened in New Meadows back in October. And the man accused, John Cody Hart, Hart allegedly shot and killed Rory and Sarah Meehan, owners of the Heartland Inn in New Meadows. Now, John Cody Hart is charged with 2 counts, first-degree murder, and he was reportedly staying at the inn at the time of the shooting. But law enforcement tells us they still don't know of Hart's connection to the state of Idaho. But what we do know today, the suspect, John Cody Hart, was in New Meadows. He had a hearing today, and Morgan Romero has been following this case for us for several months. She joins us now. And Morgan, there's a lot of questions from the Idaho community, the New Meadows community about why this happened, how this happened. What's the latest we know here today?
Well, you know, Joe, we have been covering this case, as you alluded to, since it happened on October 1st, and this just really rocked the tiny mountain town of New Meadows. It sent ripples across the entire state. We know Rory and Sarah Meehan, the 2 victims, were so loved. Not only in New Meadows, they were starting a skate park there. They owned the Heartland Inn. They were also really well known and loved in Boise as well. So we're still working to get answers on that. But early on, a judge determined that John Cody Hart needed a psychologist or a psychiatrist to examine him to figure out if he was mentally fit to help in his own defense and understand the court proceedings against him. The examiner also looks into whether that person has the capacity to make decisions about their treatment. Court records show Hart's competency evaluation, as it's called, was finished on November 25th. And then today, as Joe mentioned, at 2 p.m., Hart had a hearing where the judge reviewed that evaluation to determine whether or not Hart is competent and fit to proceed. As of right now, based on court records that I've been able to access, it is unclear what happened in that case, but I am still working to figure it out. If you take a look on your screen, this is a document I received yesterday. The judge closed this hearing to not only the media, but the public, which is why at this time I don't know what came out of that hearing. This is his order doing that on Tuesday. He said information in the hearing is exempt from public disclosure, specifically mental commitment case records. Of course, that is what we're trying to figure out. Is he competent to stand trial or proceed in this case, or is he not? If he's not competent, under Idaho code, he then gets sent to a state psychiatric facility where he undergoes what's essentially referred to as competency restoration, and then they reevaluate and they hold more hearings down the road to figure out, okay, has his competency been restored? Can he proceed now in this case against him?
So a very situation what happened up in New Meadows, and again, this happened back in early October. So Morgan, get us up to speed here for those that might have not seen your story. Was this a random attack? What really happened back on October 1st?
You know, Joe, it does seem random. And like you said, as far as law enforcement knows, John Cody Hart does not have any connections to the state of Idaho or to the Meehans. After he allegedly killed the Meehans in New Meadows, he was arrested several miles away in Washington County. I obtained an arrest warrant affidavit showing a potential motive for the shooting, though, back in October. Take a look. It shows Hart told a detective he went through drawers inside the Heartland Inn looking for socks that he thought belonged to his children. A man and woman told him he couldn't go through other people's rooms. Hart told detectives the 2 people, quote, snatched everything from his hands, making him feel like a thief. Hart said this made him angry, caused him pain, and he felt the couple was like Bonnie and Clyde. The affidavit goes on to say a deputy was called to the inn after that, where he talked with Hart, and then that deputy left. The shooting happened 24 minutes later. In the affidavit, detectives say Hart admitted that he went to the front counter and he shot and killed the man and woman, which we later learned, of course, were the Meehans.
And you know, as you've reported, John Cody Hart has a violent history. He was arrested in the state of Washington back in 2021 for an assault, a very serious assault. Then a judge let him out of jail. So the question I know that many have in New Meadows and across Idaho is, you know, how did this happen and how did he end up in the state of Idaho? Was this whole thing a mistake? Was he let out on accident?
Yeah, it is really interesting. We have done a lot of reporting on this. A police report essentially alleges that he violently assaulted a man that he met on Grindr in the summer of 2021. We're going to get to more on that attack in just a minute. He was deemed incompetent to stand trial for those charges in Washington. Okay, and then he was ordered to go to one of Washington's psychiatric facilities for competency restoration, which is, Joe, the very issue that we're talking about here. A competency report from that case shows that he's an Army vet who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he had a marijuana use disorder. Hart was waiting in jail for months for a bed to open up in that psychiatric facility called Western State Hospital. But as we've reported, a judge decided to let him out of jail in July until he could get a bed. When he came to New Meadows, where he allegedly shot and killed the Meehan's, he was not allowed to be here. In fact, he wasn't allowed to own a gun. That's because he was on intensive supervised pretrial release. Together with our sister station in Seattle, we learned this is a systemic problem in Washington State. Because of a backlog getting into Western State Hospital, Joe, a lot of people who are deemed mentally ill and incompetent to stand trial are waiting for months in jail.
So the judge in the case there, was he concerned about civil rights, saying, we can't have you sitting in jail when you can't go to trial?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He said, I just don't feel like this is constitutional. Should not be allowed in our state to allow somebody to sit in jail and wait. But interestingly, Joe, and I know we're going to see a story here shortly, but interestingly, he was supposed to get a bed just a few days later, according to the Clark County, Washington prosecutor who I talked to on this case. So John Cody Hart had this hearing in July of this year. Judge let him out of jail. A few days later, he was set to get a bed, but the state prioritizes beds for people who are currently in jail. So because he was let out, then he gets, knocked down to a lower priority. He gets deprioritized, and therefore a bed then goes to somebody who's in jail. So it's really messy.
Well, it's a complicated situation here in the state of Idaho and, of course, in Washington. And our sister station in Seattle, King 5, they're doing a series on this very issue that Morgan just touched on, not enough beds. Here's their story highlighting the situation there that includes Hart's case, and they kind of explain the implications that really has created the situation as a whole.
It's a grief like we haven't experienced before. And that's what I felt in the whole community. It was, no, this can't be.
In October, the rural mountain town of New Meadows, Idaho, population 517, saw its first act of random violence anyone here can remember. A Vancouver, Washington man, John Cody Hart, allegedly shot and killed Rory and Sarah Meehan. It happened in the lobby of the historic Heartland Inn that they owned and operated.
So when I received the call Saturday, I was numb.
The town immediately gathered to mourn these pillars of the community, people they'd known for years.
They were all about people coming together for a common purpose.
Julie Good is the mayor of New Meadows.
How is it that he is free to come into our small, quiet, beautiful community and wreak havoc, not just with the family's life, but with our lives?
When the murders happened, John Cody Hart wasn't supposed to be here on the streets of rural Idaho. He was supposed to be at Western State Hospital in Pierce County, getting treatment ordered by a Washington state judge. Before Hart made it to Idaho, he was behind bars in Washington, one of about 850 defendants in the state waiting for court-ordered mental health treatment. The legal wait time to go from jail to Western State Hospital is 7 days. But right now, people are waiting longer than ever before, up to 9 months.
John Cody Hart present. If you are, state your date of birth.
September 2nd, 1994, Your Honor.
In Hart's case, he was in the Clark County Jail in Vancouver, charged with assault. Last year, unprovoked, he allegedly attacked an acquaintance. Court records show he strangled the man and tried to rip his eyes out. Deemed incompetent to stand trial, Hart waited 4 months behind bars for a bed at Western State until a judge got fed up.
I simply can't continue to hold him on the expectation that maybe someday they'll come pick him up.
The Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, kept putting off Hart's admission date to the hospital. Judge Robert Lewis ruled his constitutional rights were being violated and released him in July to wait for a bed at Western State in the community.
I do this with some reluctance as the charges against Mr. Hart are very serious. His motion to release is granted.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good day.
3 months later, Rory and Sarah Meehan were dead.
It's insulting a little, the reality that this didn't have to happen. It's going to be difficult no matter what, but the way that it happened and the reason that it happened, it just adds a little bit more of a punch to the pain that we're already feeling.
I mean, that's horrible to hear. That's the first I'm hearing about that.
Doctors Thomas Kinlan and Brian Wablinger are senior DSHS officials.
Is that something that weighs heavily on you? Basically, I'm talking about public safety.
Of course. I mean, myself, the entire department, that is a huge concern as well. Again, want to try to get to these orders as quickly as possible.
DSHS says they can't keep up with current demands. Judges are ordering a record number of defendants get help at Western State Hospital.
So we're working as hard as we can. If we can't create extra beds or we can't create staff out of thin air, what can we do to make things work better?
This is a public safety crisis.
Rebecca Vasquez focuses on these cases for the King County Prosecutor's Office. She says the state's problem is this: poor planning and chronic underfunding, creating the worst chaos she's seen.
Our whole community is impacted by not taking care of people with serious behavioral health needs.
Records obtained by King 5 show that in King County, because of the long wait times, judges have dismissed charges including burglary, felony harassment, indecent exposure, hate crimes, and assault with a deadly weapon.
How would you characterize what you're seeing now?
Immense crisis. And the system is years past its breaking point.
DSHS officials say the ultimate goal is to prevent people with mental illness from ever entering the criminal justice system in the first place, and they're working hard to figure that out.
Do you feel like there's hope to turn this around?
I would not be doing this job if I didn't think there was hope. We are thinking innovatively. What can we do differently?
Rory and Sarah were my friends.
Back in rural Idaho, a grief-stricken community has a message for leadership in the state of Washington.
Whatever they can do to make it so this doesn't happen again to another small community, whatever needs to happen, they need to find a way.
Yeah, we say this time and time again, but this tragedy just seems so senseless, especially after seeing something like that. And new this afternoon, King 5's Susanna Frame, investigative reporter there, obtained video of Hart's assault in Clark County back in 2021. A police report of the incident shows Hart connected with the men in this video you're about to see on Grindr. They invited him to come over and hang out. Hart left for a bit, so one of the roommates went to go find him. When the roommate couldn't find him and got back to the apartment, Hart was there. We want to warn you, what you're about to see before the roommate gets back is very, very graphic. A surveillance camera inside the apartment caught this entire assault, which is very rare. The video clip we're about to show you is edited and it is blurred, but some of you may find it very upsetting and violent. We are not airing audio of the attack, by the way. Viewer discretion is advised here. Take a look. As we see this video, you can see John Cody Hart, and we've blurred the victim's face there. You see him jump on the man and put him in what police describe in their police report as a VNR. That's a vascular neck restraint. This happened completely unprovoked. Hart wraps his legs around the man, making him fall on the couch. He then keeps holding the man there, and the man goes limp. As you can see, Hart punches the man in the face multiple times, and then we're gonna pause the video here in just a moment right there. He digs his thumbs into the victim's eyes. The roommate then walks in the door. He sees what's going on. He runs over. He looks sort of confused. You can't tell if he knows what's happening right away. He pulls Hart off of his roommate, and then later the man snaps back into consciousness. He gets up, and he's able to walk away. It is unclear, Joe, if the judge in this case, Judge Robert Lewis, who's overseeing the case in Clark County, Washington, saw that video as part of the case review. When we asked, his clerk said that they're not able to comment on pending cases, on any active cases. And how serious was this attack that we watched? Well, in the police report, the responding Clark County Sheriff's deputy says that he talked to the nurse who was there treating the victim, and she said that the victim may never be able to see again.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we showed a very, edited clip of that, but I mean, that's really hard to watch. And again, you and I and some of our news staff, we watched the unedited clip. It's very violent and it is shocking to watch.
Yeah, it is. It is really hard to watch, and we don't know exactly how the victim is doing right now, but again, he may not be able to see. So it just shows how violent John Cody Hart was before he was let out of jail.
So we're kind of caught up to speed. And I know a lot of this is in limbo right now as we're continuing to check in with the legal system. But where does the New Meadows murder case stand right now? Specifically what happened here in Idaho?
Yeah, so as we talked about extensively today at 2 p.m., they had a hearing, that was held. And I checked on iCourts during the King 5 story we just ran, and still no updates. It just says that the hearing was held. So we don't know if it was deemed that John Cody Hart is competent or incompetent to proceed and understand the case against him and help in his own defense. We will continue to check back on that. If he is found incompetent, again, he will go to a state psychiatric facility to receive competency restoration services, Joe.
And I guess in terms of what happens in Washington, I guess that kind of on a back burner for now?
That case, again, still active based on what the judge said, but that case very much on the back burner. John Cody Hart is in jail right now, Joe, without bail.
All right. Well, Morgan Romero reporting for us again. We just want to mention as well, a few days after those alleged murders, the Adams County prosecuting attorney did file an intent to seek the death penalty for John Cody Hart. He called the murder especially heinous or cruel. He says Hart has been in jail without bail. Again, if you want to see more of Morgan's reporting on this and other investigative stories, you can check out our website, ktvb.com. 208 returns right after this. Well, welcome to the 208 living room, and we just want to do some housekeeping here. Thanks for always being a guest in the 208 home. But here's what I want to tell you. For the year 2022, we have 7 episodes left of the year of all the 208. So we have 7 episodes left. Today, tomorrow, and next week. So it's the last week of the year that our team, the 208 team, we're going to go on a little bit of a holiday. But don't worry, we'll be back in January. But over the next 7 editions of the 208, we're going to take a look back at some of the stories we told, the people we met, the events we witnessed. Some serious, some on the lighter side. And let's stick with the lighter side for now. We got a really cool chance to get behind the scenes at the legendary Antique Roadshow earlier this year. Of course, it airs locally on Idaho Public Television. Hello, IPTV friends. But to kick off our 7 days of the 208, you can see the great graphic we got here in the living room. Let's take a look back at our amazing day at the Antique Roadshow.
I mean, there's so much stuff. It's a non-stop parade of people all day long. It's great.
There's excitement with every step as the crowd at the Idaho Botanical Garden moves closer to finding out some history, specifically history about treasured items.
We found this wonderful place to do a show, and here we are. They let us in, said okay, and we're delighted to be here.
Marcia Bemko is the legendary executive producer of Antiques Roadshow, an all-time PBS classic show. Since 1997, Bemko and her team have traveled the country, meeting interesting people with interesting items. A team of experts appraise items, everything from paintings to pocket watches, and they share the history behind them. Bemko's job, selecting the best of the best to profile on the show.
My favorite appraisals, I'm a jaded producer. It's not about the money for me. My favorite appraisals are with a great story. They can give you goosebumps. True goosebumps, yeah.
So we got 2 grandfather watches.
Yeah. Antique Roadshow favorite Peter Plain specializes in watches.
This was made about the end of 1899, right at the turn of the century.
Sure, families want to know the value of items handed down for generations, but the history about an item is just as valuable to many. The hands on this pocket watch still click. Other details, though, are lost to history.
Hey, you know what? He could have got it in a card game for all we know, you know?
Some items the experts have seen before. Others,
supposedly this is Alexander Hamilton's cane,
have the potential to create stories that a family will never forget.
We sit around, drink wine, and watch the Roadshow all the time. It's great, you know?
David carries this cane, hoping the stories he's been told about it are all true.
It could be Alexander Hamilton's, and you know, it's, if you look on the top, I mean, it's very clear, AH. Looks like there was some old jewel, embedded in here, and I have no idea. I'm just here for the ride.
Expert appraiser Nico Lowry is a fan favorite. He loves the interaction at these events, and he finds that people love to hear about their items, even if they do turn out to be worthless.
But it's wonderful to talk to people about what they have, to talk to them about what they love, to explain it to them, and have them, what she had was not valuable, and she didn't mind. She was so excited to hear about it. I think she was excited to be here, and it's that kind of energy that we really like.
We all care desperately about what we've brought today. Anybody who's bought, we have 2 items. All of our guests, each ticket holder gets to bring 2 items. Often they're inherited things, often they're family objects. And whatever it's worth, this is what we all have in common here today. Everybody really wants to learn about what they own. They care deeply about it.
There's kind of cool history. Showed me how to set it and stuff, which is kind of unique to the railroad watches, I guess.
Sean and Lisa learned about family heirlooms that now have more detailed backstories.
Actually, the rest of our family got tickets too, so they'll be here this afternoon. So we do have more stuff coming. So
okay, so at dinner tonight, it'll be a fun family discussion.
Yeah, who won the best?
Walking through the Antique Roadshow, you'll hear and see a collection of stories and tales you cannot find anywhere else, and it's that feeling that keeps everyone coming back. Especially the appraisers, because yes, they too sit around after the show, marveling about the items and the stories.
What did you see? What did you pitch? What was turned down? What did you go on air with? It's great.
I'm looking for great stories. I really am. For us, we're looking for great stories and some good stuff with it.
And the episodes that were taped in Boise at the Botanical Garden, those are set to air next year in April. We'll circle back and remind you when we get closer. Idaho's chief meteorologist Rick Lance joins us now. Rick, what's the word?
Well, just to let you know, very cold. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast. And, you know, it's been cold. So you say, what can you tell me that's even cold? It's going to be colder, yeah, and noticeably colder. Wind chill for tonight's probably going to drop us down to about, we're probably somewhere around 14 to 15 degrees, okay, just with the wind chill. And you can see some of those low temperatures coming into Saturday and Sunday. We're still getting down to around, 10 to 7 degrees, so very, very cold. What saves us? Well, there's a chance of some snow next week. An aversion will be developing as we move into the weekend. And then next week, some of those temperatures will be coming up because we will be getting a little bit of snow. And some of those right now, this is a long ways out, so I can't say fully, but it's looking more promising for some of the mountain areas to get more snow up there.
Okay, that's what we like to hear.
Go for it.
All right, we'll update you as we get closer. Thank you, Rick. 208 rolls on after this. All right, let's see what happens. End of the show. What any messages we got in here? This person says, I wish to order a birthday cake for delivery on December 30th in Meridian, Idaho. Can you help me? I think you might have the wrong number. This is something we probably can't help you out with, but I guess if you send us some more context about what type of cake you're looking for, maybe you want Brian's face on the cake. That'd be good, a Brian birthday cake. They need it by December 30th, so we'll get the bakers to see if they have any high quality material. But yeah, follow up with us. Anyways, all right, that's the end of the 208. Join us tomorrow on Friday because we have a wide variety of content for you. Join us just before 5 tomorrow.